Hi, everybody. This is Teresa Sullivan. This is going to be a little longer video than usual, and I hope you don't get bored. I never get bored with beads, but it's all about chevrons. This is one example of a chevron bead. It's a very special thing. I'll go into it. I'm going to even read sections of publications like this, which is a wonderful series of magazines put out by the Journal of the Society of Bead Researchers that include chevron beads. And I'll show you some chevron beads of my own. Now I'm going to switch away from this screen. Hopefully it'll work. I've got this exciting new camera that makes pictures of things that are very, very small. So it gets some good detail so you can see what I'm see the beads that I'm talking about. So I'm going to hook that up now and wish me luck. Here we go. Well, it made a little noise, so maybe I'll see about let's see what it'll let me do. I'm going to hit camera and I know I'll try something else. Hit the other camera function. Here we go. Now I believe I have to share screen. So here's the screen I will share. It's a little discombobulated right now because I just entered the exciting world of putting this camera on my table. But yeah, just for fun, I will give you examples of chevron beads. Now I'm going to include beads that are not chevron beads, but for our purposes and generally the definition of a chevron bead, I mean, looked it up on the internet and I looked it up in these rad magazines, people who literally study beads, you know, in every spare moment of their time. That's not a chevron bead. That is, the defining element of chevron bead is the core that has the zigzag lines, basically. These are chevrons. This is a great bead that's striped, but the stripes are overlaid and the core is a solid color. Same with these. Buyer beware, you'll see sometimes a seller listing a bead that looks like, especially, these are pretty, I haven't seen these anywhere except where I bought them, but you see a lot of these beads, you see these beads fairly often. They're wonderful trade beads, they're glass, they're very, how should I say, intricately made. It takes a lot of skill to make them. They're wonderful, but they're not chevrons. Sometimes they are listed as chevrons. If in doubt, look and see if you care about it. If you're worried, if you want to buy a chevron, you want to make sure you don't buy something that's not really a chevron. Look at the profile. Does the profile have a zigzag or are those stripes just overlaid? That's the criteria. Now, I even have this wonderful necklace of trade beads that clear these out of the way, so you only have to look at one or two things at a time. Here we go. This is a necklace I found at an estate sale in Portland, Oregon in the early aughts, early 2000s. And what was fascinating was that they had several necklaces like these, which include, just for future reference, what they call Prosser beads. And there are whole articles about these. The defining aspect of a Prosser bead is that it's pot de verre, I guess, or they're also known as porcelain or Bapterosa's beads, but there's a flat equator on the bead. That aside, these were tourist necklaces from the 1960s. With this stash of necklaces, I found, number one, a lot of Bible literature and Bibles in the estate sale. I also found, and I'll be right back. Oh, I hope I have it here. I thought, oh, here it is. I also found this, which is a historic document, basically, dating basically what I'm assuming is that these people are Christian missionaries in West Africa in the early 60s. This was also, I found a stash of these election handouts. This is possibly the first non-colonial president, like post-colonial president, elected to Guinea. So this is, some just provenance stuff, basically dating these necklaces to the early 60s or even the late 50s. What is on the back of this is a French doctor, and from what little French that I know, I'm thinking that this looks like a prescription of medicine for a pregnant lady. So here's the story I constructed or pieced together from this is that American Christian missionaries were in West Africa in the late 50s, early 60s. The wife gets pregnant and ultimately they come back to America. I don't know when they came back to America. I don't have any way of knowing that, but I do know that the people left this behind in the late 90s, early 2000s in Portland, Oregon, so they were evidently in West Africa in the late 50s, early 60s, and back in Portland later after that. And the fun part is they bought tourist trade necklaces. I mean, these were quickly whipped up for the tourists. They include natural materials. The rest of the beads are glass. And the reason I brought this up and I went into that backstory was that these are wonderful examples of, let's see if they're chevrons. Nope, they are stripes overlaid on the glass. So they are glass. That's what glass sounds like. These natural materials do not make that sound. And they're wonderful, and they're really done nicely. I mean, these are, oh God, it takes really rad, mad skills to make these. So I'm not putting any of these non-chevron beads down, mind you. They're just not chevrons, that's all. They're done in a different way. The difference with chevrons is that they start with a tube for the glass that the glass is forced through, and the tube itself has those serrated edges on it. Here's another example, and this is a kind of a mystery bead to me. I wonder if it's a factory second. Both of these were purchased from Shipwreck Beads a couple of years ago, maybe late 2018, and they were from a stash of beads that Shipwreck purchased from Prairie Edge Trading in Rapid City, South Dakota. Prairie Edge Trading is a place that's been around for quite a while that purchased the entire remnants or leftover contents of a bead warehouse in Murano, Italy that was open from 1890 through 1990. And these were some of the beads that were in there. I haven't seen any chevron beads like these. 90% of the chevrons are of this color scheme, red, white, and sometimes black. Sometimes there are, I don't have any, otherwise I would proudly show them to you. But some chevron beads have a basic, like kind of a bumblebee black and white, black and yellow stripes on them. But the vast majority look like these that I've seen anyway. And this is an interesting color scheme basically, but it does have that, pointy core or rosetta. They're also known as rosetta or possibly known as rosetta beads. This also was purchased from Shipwreck, and it's like a slice. Now you can see just there's a little bit of light blue in there. All that is the thinness of that layer of blue on the outside vis-a-vis the white layer that's right underneath it. So that striping effect is caused kind of by default, not by overlaying another piece of glass on a thin strip of glass onto it, as this was evidently. So just within the legitimate Chevron, this is another one that has stripes overlaid without the rose core. And let's see, and these have the rose or flower shaped core. The reason, one of the motivations for getting this wonderful close-up camera was that I wanted you to be able to see, let's see if I can get this in focus better. Maybe, oh, that's a light. Okay, never mind. Oh, okay, here we go. Yay. I think that's some kind of autofocus. Hooray for autofocus. So this is another example of a much smaller bead. I mean, look at these difference in size here. But it qualifies as a chevron. And despite what I said about most of the beads being chevron beads being this color scheme, this has a green color scheme. But similar to this one, especially this one, the lighter stripes on there are created by default the way these are, due to the thinness of the layer of glass over that point part. But and even these I think qualify as chevrons. I'll have to, let's see. Oh no, I brought this as an example of a bead that is not a chevron. So let's see if I can get it in focus. Thank you, autofocus. So it has a black core and it has stripes overlaid in a uniform, smooth fashion. See how straight they are? The striped canes are overlaid with the background color on top of the core color. So yeah, they're wonderful stripes. I love stripes. If you know me, if you've seen my work, you know I love stripes, not chevrons. So I want to read a little bit, and I'll try to keep this from being overly academic. I'll just do a little endorsement there. These magazines are great. They are extremely thorough. They use as far as I know, they use they try to sort out the truth from the fantasy, because when people are trying to sell you beads, they invent interesting stories to help sell beads. What I first was excited about was seeing both these and these examples in an article about beads found in Cameroon. And this is an article by Pierre Carter and is translated by Howard Opper. This is from 1992, or published in 1992. A version of this article first appeared in 1981 under the title Les Perles de Verre Cameroun in Arts d'Afrique Noire, number 40. And it was initially intended that Mr. Harder produced an expanded and updated version for this magazine, Beads, Journal of the Society of Bead Researchers, but he died before this could be accomplished. Fortunately, they decided to translate it. They have wonderful, they're very thorough. they do this at an archaeological scientific level. They're talking about decorated drawn beads. Now, decorated drawn beads include these clear with white stripes beads, and they're also sometimes known as gooseberries. They just call them decorated drawn beads, colorless beads with white stripes, and the ones on the right are chevron beads. This is a royal, we're talking chieftains, kings, the necklace of the king, combining these two types of beads. And one of the things I love about learning about chevrons is that, and what I love about the artwork of West Africa, Cameroon, Togo, Ghana, is that they combine gigantic egg-shaped, egg-sized glass trade beads with smaller beads, and even what they used to call pound beads or seed beads. This is a royal Bamileke necklace of chevron and tosi beads. They call the white, what we call sometimes gooseberries, they call tosi beads. And the cool thing is each bead has its own name, including the color. So for drawn chevron beads, they are actually slightly less valuable in terms of money in the culture than the tosi beads. But the chevron beads are known as Gasasak or Mantuzu by the Bafang, Seban by the Mso, or Bufo by the Bamunka. They're worn not only by monarchs for whom the largest examples are reserved, being alternated with one or several strands of tosi, these guys, but also by all uncommon people, such as the parents of twins. That's a huge thing. The beads were made from drawn glass canes formed of 6 concentric layers in the form of 12 pointed stars, except for the outer layer. Going inward from the exterior, the colors are blue, opaque white, so-called Indian red, white, blue, and then white. There's a 7th layer of ordinary transparent glass at the core of older examples. The tapered ends exhibit 6 ground facets, giving the beads a barrel shape. So you'll see both these and these were purposely ground. And this is a little bit similar to the one up here, but the rest are ground more. So you really see that zigzag stuff. I mean, you really get the most mileage out of it. And so the beads, it gives the beads a barrel shape. These beads were actually called perla rosetta, and they were made in Venice for centuries. Large quantities can be found throughout West Africa, whereas their presence in East Africa is quite exceptional. So when you think East Africa, when I think of East Africa, I think of Kenya and the Maasai and the people, basically people who work with primarily seed beads. So the largest chevron, they're saying, can reach a size measuring 7 centimeters in length by 5 centimeters in diameter, and can be seen especially in Cameroon, Gabon, and Zaire, where they're all very high in the bead hierarchy. I want to include a little bit about what they called objects decorated with beads, such as this. Let's see if I can get it within the camera range. Here we go. These incredible, well, this in this case is a beaded calabash with an elephant-shaped stopper, and that's from the 1800s, 19th century. It's again Bamileke, and it's made of seed beads. These are the people that create the really, really, what I think are quite rad elephant masks, and they bead embroider over all kinds of shapes. This is a buffalo mask. What I love is that the people basically get into seed beads just as much as they get into the big giant trade beads. This is an example of a quite astoundingly intricate and wonderful royal chair representing a triumphant fawn or king holding the head of an enemy chief. And it's all beads, no real heads there. But see how it's supported by elephants and such. And it's just that all those dots you see, all those shapes, those are created by glass seed beads. It's wonderful. There are, let's see if I can find it. I have other, well, that's the one episode I was going to say, magazine on which I'm going to spend the most time, but there are a few others that are interesting and worthwhile to check out regarding, Chevron beads. And I don't know which one it was, but one of these magazines had some facts and figures about chevrons, to the extent of saying that in some societies only the royal family, or even only the king, was allowed by law to wear chevron beads. So it's a huge deal. It really means something. Another from the same article stated that basically, literally, and speaking of value, some people prioritize large trade beads over seed beads, and they don't see seed beads as being really valid, or maybe they see them as being beads. They're just not interested in them because they're not trade beads, so to speak. Well, seed beads are traded as well, and in this one part of, it was either Cameroon or Togo, a teaspoonful of seed beads. I mean, we talk about seed beads being expensive, and especially gold charlottes or delicas or icos or whatever being expensive. A teaspoonful of seed beads, regular glass seed beads, basically cost a day's pay in the late 1800s in West Africa. So I thought that was interesting. Now, let's see. I'm bringing these up because, again, this is yet some more exceptions to what I was claiming, that most of the ones that I've seen are red, white, and blue. This has some yellow in it. That's more typical. There are some other, a lot of these beads that they found were, that they're pictured here, are beads that are just the regular overlaid with stripes. This is the fun part. I've been talking about chevron beads from Cameroon and Togo. Well, these are from Hudson's Bay in northern Canada. They were found at the site of the York factory for the Hudson's Bay Company that was there since the late 1600s and closed, I believe, in the 1920s. So just to show you, chevrons really got around. Here are some more examples. Again, this is a topic for another talk. These are colloquially known as Russian blues, but they were made either in Venice or Bohemia and traded by Russians to people in North America. So the Russian moniker is not quite accurate, but they are very specific and cool. So that's another story. And yeah, here's a green chevron, red, white, and blue chevron, red chevron, all in Canada. So let's see, what else do we have here? Another wonderful 2009 issue of Beads, Journal of the Society of Bead Researchers. This is not as sexy because it's not in color, but it's a review of an article describing chevron beads with a hexagonal cross section found in surface collections from the Overhill Cherokee town of Great Tellico in Tennessee. So Cameroon, Northern Canada, Tennessee. Hello. Same deal. These had to be, well, they're saying fortunately in this article, they carefully describe the beads and suggest they may date to the 17th century. That's the 1600s, folks. Both blue and green are listed as exterior colors. And another person found, this is by personal communication, later found an identical bead with a red exterior at another nearby site, also in Tennessee. So the hexagonal sectioned chevron bead, and these are as opposed to smooth. This is a smooth, smooth round chevron, right? These are hexagonal exteriors, as you can see from the drawing. Most interior is translucent green, then opaque white, then brick red, then opaque white, and then translucent blue. Translucent green was one of the easier colors to make. White was not an easy color to make. So these were valuable beads, and they were probably buried with people. Another wonderful source, let's see. This is another part of North America. Let's see, where are they? Where are they? Oh, they're down here. Hello. Until I'm getting excited if I talk like this, darn me. These were found in upstate New York, upstate eastern New York, along the Mohawk River. And you can see down here a smaller one, and it's very round. It's not as tubular as this one, but again, this is a little bit blown up. You can see these are centimeters here. So it's a smaller chevron, not like this big giant herc and chunky one. And it's paired with, here's another interesting version of a chevron. Similar, but look at how the, what is it? The core is just spherical, round, smooth round. So this is not a chevron, although it's striped, and this is a chevron. This is stripes, not chevron. This is actually it has a little millefiori dot on it. So there's a huge variety, but boy, did they love their chevrons. They're also, now I want to tell you, just again, as an endorsement, bald-faced endorsement, what is nice about the people who do this type of work is that before this type of work was done, archaeologists would go to a site, dig it up, take the pottery shards and date things and do all, classify everything. But all they would say about the beads was, beads were found at the site, end of story. Fortunately, these people are, if I can find a fun reference here, doing like minutia, where they're literally listing, okay, along with a clay pipe, white clay pipe bowl with the specific heel mark that circa 1675, they are writing down. They have a designated variety of types, so they can easily reference them, and then they'll say what colors they are. The variety includes the materials they're made from, and generally in an archaeological site, it's going to be either glass or metal, but they will, they'll catalog them, they'll classify them, and they will photograph them, and because they care about them. But this guy is the subject of this entire, it's 2006, volume 18. A reproduction of Horace Beck's, basically like a long paper classification and nomenclature of beads and pendants, and that came out in 1926. again, it's only in the last century that beads were even thought of as worthy of study. So hooray, hooray for Horace Beck, who decided that they were not only worthy of study, they were worthy of classification. And he carefully drew pictures, did families and types, just went into much minutia because, frankly, there are that many. There's a huge variety of beads. It's incredible. The skill that went into them is fascinating. And, he's going back, okay, this is from 600 BC. This is what it looks like. Stratified eye bead, Egypt, 23rd dynasty, so on. So it's basically the serious respect for all these intricate anonymous craftsmen of yore by paying attention to what they did. And of course, the reason I had to bring him into it was because he illustrated another cane chevron bead, and this one is actually from Egypt. He's saying it's the Roman period. He's not sure, so he puts a question mark on it. He's not making any special claims. So yeah, you've got a huge variety. You've got West Africa, you've got North America, several disparate places in North America. You've got, let's see, I do this, not chevron, and I'll do the not chevron pile and the chevron pile. And, this doesn't even cover all chevrons. I'll tell you about this necklace. I found this in a thrift store. I believe I found it here in Olympia, Washington within the last 10 years. I do not know where it's from. There was no note about it. There was no context for it other than a thrift store in Olympia, Washington in the early 2000 teens. So I like, it has modern, probably plastic cord. It has beads that are more modern, and I honestly could not tell you for a fact whether these are fakes or reproductions or an attempt by somebody to sell something at a rendezvous or a reenactment fair and get a bunch of money for something that's not really that old, or whether they're really old, so put that with but they are chevrons. Put that with my little designated chevron collection for you visually here. But yeah, basically, I love the stories behind the beads. I will see if I can get these to go into focus as I talk, as I spiel. Here we go. Looks like they're all right. And honestly, whether they're real chevrons or not is not life and death to me, although it's always interesting to compare and contrast, as they used to say in grade school. Compare and contrast the such and such with the so-and-so. Well, I'm comparing the chevrons with the non-chevrons, and there's a lot of basis for comparison because they're generally made in Europe, Southern Europe, Italy, other people outside of Italy, such as people in Czech Republic or France, may have made them, but the ones that are well-known and famous and traded, the ones who made the greatest quantities, I can probably somewhat safely say, were made in Murano, which is an island just outside of Venice, Italy. And it was a center of glass making, not only bead making, but glass making, glass articles of all kinds since the late Middle Ages at the latest. So let's see. I should chime in with Robert Liu's wonderful collectible beads book. He's got a few examples. This one is so comprehensive that it's really hard to narrow it down. I'll tell you, this bead right here, that's a chevron, but that is a contemporary one made out of porcelain that was made by Howard Newcomb in the 1990s in Portland, Oregon. Very unique thing, very highly skilled craftsman. I believe he stopped making them. So if you see something like that, it's great. There's also, I believe, a gentleman named Art Seymour, if I'm hopefully I'm not incorrect about that, who is an extremely skilled glass bead maker who was doing his own chevrons in, I believe, the 80s and 90s. They're very expensive to produce, especially on a, fans only super collector level. It's not a general, like, make a quick buck off of them kind of thing. So that discourages production. So here's a nice picture, like an eye candy picture of both natural materials and glass. And of course here, this could be a, let's see. It doesn't have a key to it. He doesn't say, like, the one over here. He's just saying, no, there's some of this and some of that. That I'm not sure. On this bead, I'm not sure what it's made of. This is, let's see, yeah, this, and just those two are chevrons. There are some other wonderful beads. These are courtesy of several collectors. Let's see. And here are, in this picture, are beads from either Oberstein, which are the agate ones, Czech Republic, and glass. There's, okay, now that I see, this is a chevron fake, no equatorial mold seams. So in any case, there are attempts, people attempted to fake chevrons. Beware, buyer beware. And so here's more more eye candy. The chevrons called the aristocrat of beads, and in the Hausa language, they're named Baki Mutum. I probably did not pronounce that correctly, but I give it a try. This strand picture dates to the 16th or 17th centuries, so that's 1500, 1600 era. The mainly composed of 7 layers. The largest ones are about 4 centimeters long. Remember, in the other magazine, Bead Researchers Journal, they're mentioning chevrons that are up to 7 centimeters long. There is I believe this one is a fake. They mention that other unusual chevrons include a fake made by Trail Decorating. And in any case, here's some more unusual chevron beads from inner to outer layers. Again, these, this whole strand is red, white, and blue, or the brick red, white, and blue. These are quite unusual in that they are different colors. And I have no idea whether this still applies. However, they're saying that a very rare 6-layer bead has white, blue, yellow, white, and blue glass. That single bead sold for $500 back in 1983. And the largest one is about 2.5 centimeters long. So even though they're not the biggest out there, if they're an unusual color, woo, oh boy. so even in, in Western, in so-called Western culture, Europeans and North Americans and so on, English speakers, people are paying pretty decent chunks of change for Chevron beads. And again, this might not even be extant. Just because somebody paid $500 for this one in 1983, that doesn't mean they can get that for that dollar amount for it now. Anybody's that watched Antiques Roadshow, when they do a reprise, like, okay, what was the evaluation of it in 2013, and then what was the dollar amount value at which it was valued in 2019, that can change dramatically. But I will wrap this up. I could go on forever, and this is just about one type of bead. Oh my gosh. So I hope this didn't bore you. If it did, you're not here anymore. You're not watching this by now anyway. So I want to thank you for your interest and patronage, and even just your interest. I don't, this one I'm going to entice people with, share with people, for whether you're a Patreon supporter or not. But if you are a Patreon supporter of my Patreon page, I deeply appreciate it. You are basically making me not foist myself out on the world of retail clerkhood or whatever. You are making it possible for me to share my love of beads and share this love through actually creating things with beads. If you're not a Patreon supporter, I don't love you any less. I encourage you to stop by my page and see what I'm offering to everyone. And, I won't stop you from becoming a Patreon supporter. That's wonderful. You can find out about how to join on the Patreon page. And I guess I should probably go to my Patreon page as a screen share so that you can see that. But I will unshare the screen so you don't have to see any irrelevant stuff. Here we go. And then I will reshare the screen so you can see that. And I will, oh boy. Oh, I see. You're still seeing the camera, aren't you? Oh, maybe not. No, you're seeing my ugly mug here. So I'll click on that. I'll click on the Patreon page. I don't know why it's dark. Probably because it's trying to bug me to do something I don't want to do. But oh, here we go. I've got things up there. What can I say? So yeah, just go to patreon.com, Teresa Sullivan Studio. And it's, let's see, I will, there we go. Nope, it didn't work. Never mind. It's patreon.com, Teresa Sullivan Studio. I will go back to the camera. Okay, and let you look at some beads while I spiel a little bit, while I do my outro spiel. I didn't script this, so you'll have to forgive my ramblings. And I do appreciate your, also loving beads and having fun with them and doing things with them. And for those of you interested in workshops, I will be bringing those back in the spring. And if anybody's interested, I will include workshops involving integrating large beads with small beads, because I think that was what really struck me about the beadwork of Cameroon, was they like the big ones and the small ones equally, and so do I. And again, for those of you who love just the tiny ones, that's great. There are a million things you can do with the tiniest of beads. And with my exciting new close-up dealy bobber, I can do real nice close-ups for the workshops. So I'm going to take one for the team and actually work with the size that you're working with, or size 11 or size 8 or whatever, as I'm doing classes, so that it'll be a little more realistic. So in any case, thanks. You're wonderful. I appreciate you. I appreciate your willingness to take your valuable time and spend it with me on these videos. I'll see you next time. Take it easy. Bye. Here we go. Stop share. Okay. So much for my outro. Yeah, I will be joining you with another video one of these days. And thanks again. See you next time. Bye.